Hi there, I'm Kylie Mowbray-Allen from Hello Media.
And I'm Jenny Walk from Elephant in the Room Consulting, and you're tuning into Bite-Sized Business Life Podcast, the show that helps business owners get clarity and insight to grow their dream business.
Whether you're launching, ready to scale, or figuring out what's next, we discuss the nitty-gritty, the hard bits, the opportunities, and the behind the scenes, and share how we've grown our own companies and helped others do the same.
We're glad you're here. Good morning, everyone. This is Jenny Walk from Elephant in the Room Consulting, and you've got Kylie Mowbray-Allen from Hello Media, and you're tuning into a Bite-Sized Business, the live podcast that helps you grow and build your business of your dreams. Some version of that today. Anyway, hello, everyone, and welcome back to a Bite-Sized Business podcast. It's our second one for the year, so I'm really excited to be back with you today. Kylie, how are you going today?
So great, Jenny. What a big month it's been already. We're up to almost the end of January, and wow, there's been a lot going on. What about for you? Has it been big?
It has been a really big start to the year. We're actually almost fully booked up until March with consulting gigs, which is pretty incredible. We've also got our Empire Builders going on in there in the middle of February. So it's been a really big start to the year, and we're really excited about what's coming this year. So it's certainly a fun start, although a little hectic, only at the end of January, and we feel like it's already March.
Yeah, that's right. Me too. I've got friends trying to organize a getaway in March, and I'm like, I can't think about that right now. There's a lot happening.
Yeah. Well, I think you know what? I think it's a lot of people I know. I've spoken to people. I have a beautiful friend of mine who started an amazing company. I won't say the name because she's already fully booked completely. And she's like, we're so busy. We're actually having to turn clients away. They've only been in business for 2 years, and they've now got a full load, and they're trying to find ways to find new businesses. And she's a phenomenal lawyer, but she was saying to me she hasn't had a break since at all, since 2023. It's just rolled straight into it because there's been so much work happening in that kind of operational perspective or changes or work, and everyone seems to be like that. They've had a very limited break over that kind of Christmas, New Year period.
Right, yeah, I did have a good 2-week break, but it definitely wasn't enough in hindsight. And I was just in New Zealand last weekend for 3 days. It was the fastest trip of my life. But that also is a reminder that I need to take more breaks. I've got to get home more, and it's interesting the balance, isn't it?
I think a mini break. I mean, we talked a little bit last time, and I know we're talking about digital decluttering today, and there's so much to talk about that before. But before we get into that, I think that idea of taking a mini break, and we do that each week with like a CEO day or half a CEO day just to work on your business, gives your brain an opportunity to refresh and restart kind of, and reset, for whether it's you've had a crazy month, a crazy quarter, taking that one day within your business, but also then saying, how do I get away for a weekend? How do I do a day trip? We went to Yamundi last weekend just for the morning, and it was so nice to get up, get in the car and go for a drive up, wander around the markets for a couple of hours, and then come home. And we felt like we'd had this beautiful break, even though we'd only been away like 4 or 5 hours.
Wow, that is so good. Well, most of the country here have had a long weekend, but I choose not to acknowledge what Friday was. So I work a normal day, but because there was no interruptions, no anything like that, I actually ended up doing a 13-hour day, and I achieved so much. I felt like I'd done a full week. It was amazing. So,
I completely agree. And I think that's an opportunity there when you realize you have those days where no one else knows you're working. It's like, not going to tell anybody. I mean, for me, I just I do a little bit of work on the Friday, but for me, it's an opportunity to spend time with Michael. He works the same times I'm working, so often we don't get that extra 1 day long weekend together. And when I can take a day off, he can't. So I actually use that opportunity for me to kind of do a bit of reset and hang out with my fiance a little bit longer. So that's kind
good
of nice.
For you. That's wonderful. So digital decluttering, Jenny, something that we always start in December and then we finish in January. So I thought it was a perfect time to talk about it now that we're at the end of January. And it's for all businesses, but also I really strongly advise you to, or not you, but everyone listening, to do it even in your personal life as well. So the first thing, I've got a little, what is it, 8 point checklist. I'm going to put it in the comments so that everyone can access this little PDF. But the first thing that we could talk about is backing up your computers and your phones to cloud or to external storage. So what do you do with that, Jenni?
We do this quite regularly. In fact, we just got new phones at the end of last year. So for us, it's a quite regular thing that we do, is we're always making sure our photos and everything on our phone is actually backed up into the cloud. And in fact, my laptop that I do always actually sits in the cloud. So in fact, we just reset that as well to make sure that everything that we have is situated in the cloud. So it actually doesn't mean whether I have my laptop with me, whether I'm using a library laptop or whether I'm using someone else's laptop, I can access all my data at any time, and it's safely secure. I use Microsoft, you know that. So I have mine sitting in Office 365 cloud, and it's so convenient because I don't have clutter on my desktop. My computer runs so much faster because I don't have all these unnecessary things on my laptop. So for us, that's what it means. It's not only safety and security, but it's also just processing speed of my laptop.
I'm 100% with you. I do exactly the same thing. The only difference is obviously I'm using Google Workspace. But also, one of the things that I have is that the minute I plug my phone into something, it automatically then makes the photos go up into Google Photos.
Yeah.
And I also have them up into Apple iCloud as well, because I figured I'm having them in two different spots because you just never know what might happen.
It's also a good tip though with your photos though. You can actually set Google to do that at any time you're on Wi-Fi. So you don't actually have to wait till you plug your phone in. And that was one of the biggest hacks I did. I learned maybe 3 or 4 years ago, is that all my photos are constantly updating into the Google Cloud, because in Google Photos, because I'm always using it on my laptop. So I very rarely need to access those photos when it's on my phone. They're often for work or for our Instagram stories, or to send to clients and things like that if I'm taking photos of client work. So I love that it backs up automatically into Google Cloud at any time.
Do you know why I've got it set so that when I plug it in is so that I can try and delete all the screenshots that I've taken before it backs them up? Because a couple of years ago, I found I had thousands of screenshots saved in the cloud. And I was like, I don't need the screenshots to be saved.
Particularly when they're those accidental screenshots that you do when you're trying to do something and you do that. I do that quite regularly.
Exactly. So that's a really important one. So yeah, you can either do what Jenni and I do and keep everything in the cloud, which I just find, I also use Dropbox. I forgot to mention that one too. But I think it's just such a great way to make sure that you're running as fast as you possibly can on your computers, which I totally agree. One little mishap happened recently, and it was my own fault, is that I had forgotten that I hadn't been deleting my downloads folder on my iMac. And so it was starting to be a bit sluggish, and I found that there were a few thousand sitting in there for the last 2 years. So I'd completely forgotten that even though they were all going into Google, they were not actually, I hadn't forgotten to download them.
Yep.
So that was an important thing to do. So make sure you go and the other thing I do is use a little, let me see if I can find the name. It's called Clean My Mac X. So I run that, and it runs through malware or malware, however you want to say it. It runs through unused files, and it just scans everything. So that's a really helpful one, and it freed me up with a few gigs as well. So yeah, worth having a look at. So number 2 is reset your important passwords and enable 2FA, two-factor authentication. So how often do you do your passwords?
Well, we were using LastPass. We've actually just transferred to 1Password just because of the way that the system works. We're actually a bit more comfortable with the 1Password system. I actually still use both, not going to lie. But we use 1Password and LastPass to actually manage our LastPassword to manage our passwords. We often get a prompt from them to actually tell us when to update the password, so we tend to do it then. But to be honest, it's gone to the days where I knew my passwords for anything. I don't know my passwords. I think maybe 3 of my passwords I'm aware of. The rest of them I have no idea, because they're the gobbledygook passwords that 1Password or LastPass gives me, and so that I am far more secure. But I love that. So we kind of tend to do a reset quite regularly. Often it's because I've logged myself out of a system, and so therefore it logs all my team out of the system as well. So we get a forced reset. They'll be nodding along when they're watching this later. And so, but definitely enable two-factor authentication. That's a big one for us at the moment. We've had so many shifts and so many changes, particularly using, we use Salesforce, which is now obviously doing it. So Salesforce, whether it's a Xero, whether it's your Google, even my Google, even down to one of the, just one of the websites that I'm in, which is actually a sales website, but they've now added 2FA into the log into the portal for them. And there's actually, interestingly, not a lot of information there. There's no credit card stored there, but they've obviously decided that they're upgrading their system to 2FA as well. So I think having that two-factor authentication just makes me feel secure. One, I know when people are accessing the system because sometimes we share passwords, so I have to provide that to my team. But it means that I know when they're in the system, which is I can also say to them, maybe you shouldn't be working on a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon, and it's time to do that Monday to Friday. But it does make me feel more comfortable about my security. How about you? How often do you do it, Kylie?
We aim for quarterly for things that are really important, and generally speaking, yearly. So in the January, we go through and change everything. Now, I'm similar to you, is that I've been moving all my passwords over to those gobbledygooks, and it's just so much better to have a password that no one could even possibly guess in a million years. No. And I like you, use both 1Password and LastPass. So 1Password I use because they set up vaults. So I have a admin vault, which is just Merlin and I that use 1Password. And then I have a family vault inside that. So all my family passwords and things I share with my family. Then we have LastPass that we use with the whole team. So I find that a really good one good way to go, because there's a lot of passwords that only Merlin would need to access and not anyone else in the team. So yeah, having those two separate spaces feels like a good option. And what is it? I can't even remember. It's maybe $100 for the whole year.
Yeah, I found that's the thing, is I found 1Password more cost effective from the vault perspective when we're managing the teams than was LastPassword. And I found sometimes, I mean, then this is just my experience, it's not everyone's experience with it, I'm sure, but setting up the vaults were a little bit more difficult. We had multiple accounts in LastPassword, but we just found 1Password to be far more easier for us to use to set those vaults up and to set up those segmentation. But definitely, I think it's about finding the right system. There's so many of them out there, but find the right system for you to use so that you aren't writing down passwords. I've still got a colleague who writes them down in her notebook, bless her heart, but we just don't want to be doing that anymore. We want to be using an online system so that you don't have it physically written anywhere.
There are also so many people that still have their birth dates, they still have their pets' names and all that kind of stuff. Yep. It's just, in this day and age, look how many things major corporations, small businesses, private people are getting hacked on a daily. Like, it's just... Yep. It's way too risky these days to put your data out there like that.
100%.
To be guessed like that.
And so what's the next one on your checklist, Kylie? We talked about deleting our photos and pictures from our phone. So if we're going through the next one, reviewing your followers and following list across social medias, tell us about that.
That's a really good one, because remember I've said before, I'd rather have 100 engaged followers than 10,000 followers who are just there and never engaging, never involved. And really, if anything, they make it worse for you in the algorithm. Let's say you've got a group, for example, and you've got 10,000 people in your group, but no one's engaging. It's actually, when you put a post out there, the algorithm will show it to less people because it doesn't think anyone's interested anyway. So the key is to keep the audience that you've got super engaged, same as your email list. Clean that one up as well. If you've got people that haven't opened an email from you in, I was going to say 3 months, but let's maybe go, as far as a year for your first time of cleaning it out, get them off your list. A, it's going to cost you less in terms of your email database, wherever you're hosting it. And B, it's actually going to get you much better results with the people that are opening your stuff. So those are really important. So either looking at your Facebook, your Instagram, your groups, your databases, all those things, wherever you've got followers that are just sitting dormant, then you need to do a bit of a cleanup. And also, who are you following? If you're not even looking at stuff from people, then unfollow them. It's not much point having them there.
I think that's such an important one to go through and identify which of the lists, which of the followers you're looking at, particularly in the moment with bots. We're finding the more we use Facebook and Instagram ads, the more trolls and the more kind of followers are not so kind of pleasant followers that are jumping onto our systems using those ads as I think as the fine point. So we're doing a lot of that review quite regularly. In fact, we do that more regularly. To be honest, I don't think we've gone through our full the people we're following list. That's something that we definitely want to do going forward. But I think it's one of those key things, particularly in that you want to make sure you're having, as you said, active, usable, and relatable kind of followers and followers on your list, so that you're targeting the right people through your marketing efforts and your remarketing efforts as well.
Absolutely. Now, there's a great app. There's many of them, but the one I was just having a look at that I use is called Unfollow. And so it can show you who's engaged with you, who hasn't, who, it's showing you the thing about who you're following and who's following you. And it really helps you bulk delete people. Or not even that's so important. It's actually just looking at it in an app for you. So that's well and truly worth having a look at. The Unfollow app or one of those apps like it. And there's heaps of them.
That's very cool. And so the next thing you've got on your list is, and again, I just got a new laptop, so I've just been playing with this myself. So sorting out your desktop and download files and creating a folder named 2023 or 2024. So basically putting all the ones from a previous year or a period that you've been working on in a folder. Why do you do that, Kylie?
So in my Google Drive, I've got one folder called Backup iMac, MacBook Pro, whatever it is. And I have, the other one is the iMac, my desktop one. So anything that's downloads from that I want to put in there, I'm not necessarily going to need to use them again, but there might be things that are important that, I keep for another day or whatever. So I put them into there. And then one day, if ever I felt like I could go through and delete it from there, but I have a lot of space that I'm paying for. So I'm happy for it just to stay there. But having those folders divided up by years, I can usually remember what's been going on in a year. So yeah, for what I've created this time is a 2023, two different 2023 folders, and you can just put it all there in bulk, sort it out if you want to, but that way you're clearing things out.
I love that. I love that idea of just going through and having and we have that on our SharePoint drive. So the files that we have in our team, we've got a SharePoint drive, which is different to my OneDrive, and it has all the files that my team need to have access to. So it's our client folders, the proposals that we're working on. So we've started to use SharePoint rather than individual OneDrives, which we really like because it gives us somewhere where we all know we're talking to the single source of truth, right? And I think that's one of the key things we have to remember when you're working with a team and you're writing a lot of content that you want your team to have access to, making sure that you're all working on that single source of truth, have it in a SharePoint folder or a shared OneDrive folder or Google Workspace that allows you to do that. It actually helps reduce that kind of, again, duplication. You're not downloading multiple copies. You're not saying, which one are you working on today? And I do that often with my clients, actually. I share them a file so I don't have to be emailing files to people. I just email them the link to my OneDrive, which goes through. I haven't had any issues at the moment about sending the link through anyone's firewalls because the OneDrive system has got that security on it already. They're password protected. It's a really good way to limit the number of folder documents that you're downloading to your desktop as well.
Absolutely. I agree completely with all of that. The next one is unsubscribing from all the newsletters you haven't read or opened in a while. I've been doing a lot of work with a client that transitioned from MailChimp to Klaviyo towards the end of last year, and we've just been having to do a whole lot of tidy up with it. Now, her list is about 16,000 people on it, but about 4,000 of them are actually engaged. So why pay for an extra...
Wow.
Whatever that is, 12,000. It took me a second. Why pay for an extra 12,000 when you don't actually need them sitting there? We can still target them later on and all of that, but they're just doing more damage than good. So it's way better having a really engaged list there. So yeah, I definitely encourage you to get onto that. One thing to remember though is that if you can, from time to time, send out a newsletter that's to your whole... This is not for e-commerce businesses, by the way. This is like for businesses like you and I, Jenny. Send something out to your whole database. It'll be like offering up something like this free workshop that you and I are running this afternoon. And I had a whole lot of people respond to that I hadn't heard from in a really long time, that hadn't opened my emails, etc. So that was a good way to get people engaging again. And then they might see more of my stuff. And then it will mean, hopefully, that's not going to go into spam. So yeah, sending something out that entices them with a great subject line.
And we actually did that. I just did that with my Gmail, my own personal Gmail account yesterday. I normally don't have it on my Outlook on my computer, but I said I'm kind of sick of going into Google separately, so I've added it to Outlook, and realized that I had 22,000 emails because I don't use Gmail very often. It's normally the one that I use it. So I actually did that this week. Actually over the last couple of days, and I'm down to 70 emails. Of all the emails that are in my system, there's only 70 that needed to be in there on my Outlook at least. And so now I can actually use that and manage that, and we're doing that. So everything I come through, I'm like, do I really want this? I don't think I need this. So I'm actually starting to unsubscribe because the volume of emails that we're getting is insane. There's a couple of brands that I absolutely love, but I get 1 or 2 text messages, notifications from the apps, and at least 4 emails a week. And there's a little bit kind of, I know where you are. I'm okay. If there's a discount coming, everyone I know has it. They'll tell me what it is. So I'm going to get off your list because it's too much in my inbox.
But also you'll see it on socials anyway, won't you? The ads will be targeting you and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's such an important thing. I actually also have, for those, and maybe efficient, maybe not, but I actually have what I've created is a subscriptions mailbox. It's not an active mailbox in the sense that it's just essentially an alias of my name, but as a separate mailbox in Microsoft Office. So you can email it if you want. But what we do is we're actually putting all those emails, and we subscribe via mailings at EITR Consulting. So the ones that we really want to keep part of, we actually have a whole separate inbox that we use for that. So we don't use our main email addresses for those subscriptions that we want to know about or be part of, but don't need to see in our inbox on a day-to-day basis. So I have my subscriptions folder, and probably once a week I'll go in and I'll read some content from there, have a look at what my colleagues are doing, get those notifications. But by having it in a separate folder, it's not distracting me from my day-to-day activities, but I know it's there when I need it. So, and they're the ones that are often from those sales marketing lists that you and I have joined, or the programs or the courses that we've been in. We don't want to delete it just yet, but we don't want to see it every day. So if that's something you're capable to do, if you're using Office, and I know Google has the same, set up a separate mailbox and put them into one of those mailboxes. I have an auto direction at the moment for a lot of them, rather than me unsubscribing directly. So I don't even get to see them. It just gets pushed to another mailbox. So that's another way if you're a little bit scared about the whole unsubscribe thing.
I also have a personal one for that too. So I try and only sign up for personal stuff with my personal email, and only using this other work one for the work ones that are relevant. And it's rare that I sign up with my own business email address to newslettery stuff, because I know I'm going to get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah, I think that's a key piece, is the overwhelm of unsubscribing. When I looked at how many emails came into my Google, I was like, but I also realized many of those were going back to 2018 and I didn't really need them anymore. So I could get rid of them. I just find it easier to delete from Outlook than I do in the Google file, because you can only ever see 50 at a time when I'm on Gmail. And so I like the Gmail because I use it for that, but only being able to see 50 at a time was too hard. Whereas this way I could just bulk delete 200 or 300 from 2 or 3 years of newsletters from TEDx or something that I've been looking at.
Oh, that's great. So what about apps that you don't use? How often do you go through your phone and clear out?
Very rarely, to be honest. I don't really do that a lot, but actually this checklist has made me thinking about the apps that I no longer need and use. And there's probably a couple that just clutter up my phone that I haven't used for a very, very long time. I did it recently with a whole bunch of games that were on my phone ages ago, which I deleted when I was on holiday. I was like, I don't use these anymore, but I haven't used it with any of the functional apps. How often do you do that, Kylie?
Probably monthly. Even more sometimes, because I download a lot of apps because I'm trying things out, and particularly business wise. And then if I don't like it, I've got a whole series of folder systems on my phone. So I've got it sitting on my second page if I'm still trying it out, then it moves into a folder if I'm going to give it a shot for 3 months, and then it moves into a spot where it gets deleted if I'm definitely not going to go ahead with it. But it's good because also another thing you could do while you're looking at your apps is go into your subscriptions on the iTunes store or the Google Play store and see what you're paying for that maybe you don't use anymore. It's a good one because, you know, just those things that are like $2 a month or something, they all add up. And so why keep paying for it if you don't need it?
Along that lines, and I know it's not on this particular list, we did a whole, I think we did a whole bite size on it last year, is if you're looking at deleting your apps, also when you're doing this digital declutter, maybe you do a technology audit at the same time. So go through all the systems that you're paying for. find an Excel sheet. If you don't know them, find your ask your accountant to write all the things you've got listed as a subscription, or get your team to look through your bank details and say, what am I paying for? Xero, MyOb. It might be 1Password. It could be Canva. It might be Microsoft Office, Zoom, all those different things that you might be using. Write a list of all of those technology that you use to support your business. See how many you have that are duplicating each other. So we did this a couple of years ago and we realized we had 3 different video systems. We didn't need that. Someone like you, Kylie, probably does, because you're using so many different platforms. They have different methodologies and different value. But for us, we could cut, I think we ended up saving about $2,000 a year, cutting out a lot of the applications that we no longer use. And to be honest, Zoom for us is one of them. We're a Microsoft-based organization. Most of our clients work on Teams now. And so it's actually, for us, we do most of our webinars and workshops one-on-one through Teams. So we've actually changed our subscription to Zoom. So we haven't got rid of it completely, but we've downgraded it through Zoom, not because we don't like the platform, but because for us, operationally, Teams is a better platform for us. And we've done that with a number of other activities. So you don't have to get rid of it, but just go through all the technology you're purchasing and say, do I need to be paying for this? If you're paying for extra terabytes on Google Drive, do you need to have Dropbox still? And vice versa for Microsoft Office. I know so many people who do that, who've got a huge amount of storage on OneDrive. Then they have their Google account, so they have Google Drive as well, and they're paying for Google Drive, and they're paying for Dropbox. So the volume of storage they have isn't needed for the size of their business. So really it's easy to follow a trend and be like, yes, I'll buy it. We do that throughout Sumo all the time, but often it's a single purchase. So it's not that ongoing subscription.
That's what I love about Sumo, right? Is the single purchase. So good. I'm a bit of a safety girl. And so I get really nervous if I only have my stuff stored in one place. So I prefer to pay for multiple places, 2 really, but for some things 3. Just because if some platform falls over or gets hacked or whatever, I want to know I've still got it somewhere else. But for tidy sakes, it would be nice just to have it in one place.
Also true. So you've got one more on your checklist, Kylie. What's the last one on your checklist that really intrigued me when you send that through me? So
this one's a really, really, really important one, and I just did it and I felt so light. It would been like I just lost 20 kilos. So that is archiving your emails and all of your chats on WhatsApp and Telegram. So I had 22,000 emails sitting in my Kylie at Hello Media. And yeah, it was so overwhelming. And I have a really good filing system and all of that, but I just couldn't keep up. There's some months that go by and I just can't. So what I did was, this just felt so good. I literally selected the whole lot. So even though you can only select 50 at a time, you can then go select all. And I just archived every one of them. And everyone was gone. So they're not deleted. They're still there when I do my searches. So that was wonderful. And so I started the year fresh with 0 in my inbox. And I'm probably up to about 600 already. But I'm about to archive again and just be more on top of it this time. It's just too much.
My team, my amazing Helena and I have been doing that over the last couple of months. And in fact, so we had because we use Office, obviously Microsoft Office, so we have folders which allow us, essentially the version of archive. We don't get to see the big number that sits there. We've pushed it all to other folders. So our actual inbox is down to about 86 today, which is phenomenal. So I'm only looking at 86 emails at any one time, and everything else is filed in folders, or it's archived, or it's in areas that I know that I don't need, but like you, I don't necessarily like to delete the email trail. But we'll always go back. One of the tips that we often do is if you're doing a toing and froing from clients, and it's been a consistent to and fro, conversational tennis via email, one of my colleagues might call it, you can go back and delete some of those earlier conversations. So you don't need to keep all 12 emails. You might only need to keep the last 3 or 4, because you actually have all the data you need on one, not having to keep all those extra emails. So often people don't realize that particularly because the way they're viewing their system, they think that they're all separate. They're not. So finding a way to even streamline some of the ones that you don't want to get rid of is a really good way to, as you said, make your inbox look so much better, but also it frees up storage space on your system as well.
And how often do we need to go back and look for something? You know, it might be like a proposal from a year ago, and then we want to bring it back and tweak it or whatever for the next year's thing. And going back through 500 emails with that one company, it's a nightmare. So that's one of the reasons, well, I just hate email, and especially when you're having to involve an entire group through it, and it just, wow, it can get messy. So I love your suggestion of deleting all that old stuff, just keeping the ones that you need to. But also that's why we run everything through Messenger in our company with our client teams. But I'm not going to talk about it today, the security debacle stuff that's gone on for me in the last just over a month. But what I would like to mention is that my fabulous security guy has put me onto Signal. So we will potentially be...
Signal is so good.
So I downloaded a couple of years ago and then just not used it. So we're looking at it for potentially moving all our whole company communications across to. And there's lots of things that I'm just blown away with in terms of its encryption and all that kind of stuff. So when we bring on, we'll probably bring on Brad again, Jenni, like we have in the past, and do a bit of a security update, because crikey, there's lots of updates going on that we need to all be aware of. But yeah, that's worth having a think about is Signal as an option.
Definitely. One of the other things that just popped into my brain then that I now have is that it's come and gone as you were talking about Signal in terms of doing that digital declutter, and my brain will come back to me and I can't remember. But it's important. It was good at the time. And if I remember it, I'll put it in the chat for the podcast or for Messenger. I think the key here though is going through all of your systems to identify what's important. And I've just worked out what it is. We use Salesforce CRM. So what we've done, we don't save every email in Salesforce. In my previous employers, way back when, they saved every single email in Salesforce, which actually makes it difficult to look at. What we always do is when there's an email that includes a proposal or a client to send us any information that's relevant to a particular proposal or what we call an opportunity that we're doing, we save it in our Salesforce CRM system. So whatever your system that you're using, but by doing that and including, I know that I can go into Salesforce, look up my client name and all the documents that I need, that whether it's the proposal, the acceptance, any resources they provided us, we've saved it in the CRM there, and that means that we can always access it that way. It also allows us to see when our last interaction with our clients were, so we don't have to go into email and say, when was the last time I emailed so-and-so? I have the relevant information that I need is saved on that space. So if you're running a customer relationship management system, doesn't have to be Salesforce. There's so many around. We got Salesforce many years ago on a really, really great small business enterprise agreement, and so we're sticking to it, and we will never leave you, Salesforce, because we're in a really, really good deal for our business. But it functions really well for us as that data management system around proposals and opportunities.
Fantastic. We use Keep, or otherwise known as Infusionsoft, probably for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm actually getting better at it finally. It's taken me a really long time, but there's more and more I'm finding in it that I'm enjoying. So I've been able to get rid of Calendly, for example, because I'm now putting all those appointments, booking links through Keep. So yeah, there's lots of ways. And of course we do our newsletters through Keep and stuff too. So landing pages, all kinds of things. So it's nice having a hub, isn't it, that you actually can use. Although I'm a big believer is not to put all of your eggs in one basket.
No, very much so. I think also when we're looking at your customer, it's one of those things, and maybe we'll talk about that on another day, is when we're talking about growing your business and when you start to have lots and lots of different clients, then making sure that we have enough, one space that we can actually save our information, whether it's your proposals, your clients, whether you're, and have a process so that you can actually manage and monitor those clients. For the work that you and I do, we are on kind of group coaching models or with my empire builders, or particularly with my corporate clients, I like to see how my proposal's tracking. When did they first ask me for that proposal? When did we finally close that opportunity? Knowing that lead time is really valuable information for your business as you grow, to understand how do I reduce that time from 3 months to 2 months to a week if you can? How do we minimize that kind of lead time and proposal closing? So if you haven't got a customer relationship management system, be it Keep, be it Salesforce or something similar, I really recommend it's something for 2024 that you look at, because it will streamline your business like you have with Keep for You. It's making it a much more efficient and effective way of running your business from a back end, so we can focus on doing the stuff we love to do and not running the stuff behind the scenes.
Let's do that for a topic next week, streamlining your business. I think it's the perfect time of year to really get on top of that.
Exactly. I think that's a great idea. Streamlining our business 2024. That's what we'll be doing in our first week of February.
Awesome. Well, if you have not heard, in just over an hour, Jenni and I are running a free workshop. It's for 3 hours. Jenni's going hard on goal setting. I'm going hard on your new digital marketing strategy for the year. So if you'd like to join us, we'll put the Zoom link so that you can go and register, and you can come back at 1 o'clock New South Wales time, 12 o'clock Queensland time, and come and join us and learn some good stuff.
It will be fun. I love talking about goal setting. I love talking about building habits. It's one of two of my favorite topics. So please, if you haven't registered, maybe we'll put the link out. You'll find it on our socials, with all the socials that we've been out for the last couple of days. You'll see the registration link. It is free, 3 hours of your time. Bring a notepad, bring a pen, bring a cup of coffee, a glass of water, and sit back and relax and get ready to, prepare your 2024 to be an amazing year for you.
Yay. Well, I look forward to seeing you in an hour. Jenni?
Look forward to seeing you too. Thank you for everyone dialing in or tuning into us today, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on our podcast station or whether it's on Facebook. Great to have you here. Please make sure you like and subscribe the podcast so that you know when our next one drops, and you can stay abreast for everything that we're doing. And if you've missed any in the back, go back to YouTube and have all the podcast stations and have a look and listen to some of the previous ones we've done. We've covered every topic from marketing and sales to legals to security to growing your business, building your business, pricing and products. It's all covered over the last couple of years on our Bite Size Business Life podcast. So please make sure you check out our old subscriptions if you're new to us. Great to see you, though. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Next week, we're talking about setting up systems and your business. Sounds great.
Streamlining. Can't wait. All right. I look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks so much.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.